As I sit here today, or early this morning, just thinking back on the loss of another child. Yesterday, we lost another child to gunfire yesterday. And a few days ago, a friend of mine, he lost his daughter to suicide with a firearm because of bullying. And recently, I went to a funeral. Agent Derek Roberts, 49-year-old young man, that lost his life due to a heart attack. And as some of you know, in 1982, I lost my son, my first son, Earl D. Mack III, also to gun violence as well. And so just sitting here looking back over my loss and how I feel, you never know how a parent feels that have lost a child unless you've lost a child. We can say all kinds of things of what we would have done and what we should have done, but you never know until you walk in those shoes of a parent that has lost a child. My child was lost at the age of 10 years old, and sometimes I still smell his sweat. He used to play baseball for Martin's Elementary School back then, and I still have his baseball cap, his jersey, and at times, it's tough, but you learn to live with it, for sure. His birthday is coming up. It's going to be January the 10th, and it always becomes a difficult time. But like I said, you always, in these kinds of cases, parent losing a child, you just learn to live with it. And it seems like nowadays parents are burying their child instead of the other way around, children burying their parents. Regardless of what the circumstances are, it's a tough situation that a parent finds him or herself in when they lose a child, for sure. And so I just ask that you just embrace that parent and support them as much as possible, for sure. I had a lot of support around me when it happened, and I also had sought out psychological help as well, because sometimes you just can't do it on your own, or friends are just not enough, and you need some professional to help you. And I would encourage any parent that have lost a child that you also seek out some kind of help, psychological help as well. But anyway, just wanted to come on and just say something about that. Say something about my son. My son was killed in the home with a firearm. We never got closure on it at all. We think there was another person involved in his death. It was ruled a suicide, but we don't believe it was. The back door was open when we came home. When we found his body, the fence leading down the steps to the backyard, the fence was open. We never leave the fence or back door open at all. A neighbor had heard something, looked out of her window, and seen a figure coming down the steps, but could not make out who that was. Anyway, the Toledo Police Department ruled it a suicide when it really wasn't a suicide. But I won't get into all of that, because sometimes parents tend to blame others for things, especially in situations like this. You become angry. You then start accusing things. You look back on your own life and say, what could I have done any differently that my child would still be here today? But we have to move on with our lives because we're still living, and most of us have other children to tend to. My daughter took it hard as well, and she has grown up to be a very lovely young lady. She's a veterinary. She's a doctor of veterinary medicine, and have moved on with her life as well. So anyway, I just wanted to just come online and talk a little bit about that and how we should help embrace those parents that lose a child, for sure. So those parents with those firearms in your home, please lock those firearms up. Mine did not have a lock on it. It was in my bedroom in the closet. My son rarely came into my room, so we don't know why he was in there that day. He did not even know where I kept the weapon, but he was able to, or someone was able to get hold of that weapon, and a tragic incident occurred. That particular weapon, he could never get his hands around it to pull the trigger, to put it in his chest, turn it the opposite way and put it in his chest and pull the trigger. That was impossible to happen with that particular weapon. Anyway, It's something, again, we don't have closure on, but you learn to live with it. It'll probably go to my grave wondering what really happened. So anyway, parents, if you have weapons in your home, put a lock on it. Lock them up. Police officers, because we have police officers lose children before. If you don't have a lock, we know what to do. Put your handcuffs around the trigger so it can't be pulled, or behind the trigger so it can't be pulled at all. So anyway, I just wanted to come on and say that my heart goes out to any parent that loses a child, and that's why I work so hard in the community programs we have with children, because I don't want any other parent to feel the loss of a child like I did, and that's why I worked hard in liquor control to help keep kids alive, and I do the same now in my community service. So thank you for listening to this, and again, lock those firearms up from those children. Thank you again.